At Christmas dinner, I accidentally bumped into my sister while reaching for the mashed potatoes. She slapped me so hard across the face that my head jerked to the side. The sound echoed through the entire dining room. "You ruined us!" she screamed, pointing at me with pure hatred in her eyes. My mother stood up from her chair so fast that it almost fell backward. Her face was red with anger as she looked at me and said coldly, "Apologize to your sister right now, or leave this house." I stood there, holding my burning cheek, feeling the heat spread across my skin. I looked at my father, who was staring down at his plate like he didn't even know me. I looked at my brother-in-law, who was pretending to be busy with his phone. I looked at my mother, who had just chosen my sister over me without a second thought. I didn't apologize. I didn't cry. I didn't even argue. I simply picked up my coat from the back of the chair, looked at all of them one last time, and walked out of the house without saying a single word. Welcome back to Polite Revenge Stories, quiet stories about ordinary people who stop apologizing for taking up space. If you've ever been the one left off the guest list, this one's for you. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe so the next story finds you. My name is Riley Sutton, and this is the story of how my own sister slapped me at Christmas dinner in front of the entire family, and how 4 days later, on November 28th at exactly 7:30 p.m., I left something on their doorstep that made them scream in panic when they opened it. I grew up in a big, expensive house in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. My parents, Daniel and Laura Sutton, owned a successful chain of high-end coffee shops across the Pacific Northwest. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family. Successful parents, 2 daughters, nice cars, and a beautiful home. But behind closed doors, love was always conditional. My older sister, Madison, was everything my parents wanted. She worked in the family business, married a rich real estate developer, and lived the exact life they had planned for both of us. I, on the other hand, became a high school English teacher. I loved my job. I loved my students. I loved the quiet life I had built for myself in a small apartment in downtown Portland. To my family, that was unacceptable. They saw my independence as rebellion. They saw my teaching job as a waste of my potential. And every holiday, every family dinner, every phone call slowly became another opportunity for them to remind me that I had disappointed them. This Christmas was no different. I had driven from Portland to my parents' house with a dish I had spent hours making. I was trying, once again, to keep the peace. I smiled, helped in the kitchen, and tried to ignore the usual comments about how I was wasting my degree and throwing my life away. Everything was going fine until I reached across the table for the mashed potatoes. My elbow lightly brushed Madison's arm. That was all it took. She turned to me with pure rage in her eyes and slapped me across the face so hard that I saw stars for a second. "You ruined us," she screamed. "Because of you and your stupid pride, Dad's buyers backed out of the deal. You refused to help the family business, and now everything is falling apart." My mother didn't even ask what happened. She didn't ask why Madison had slapped me. She just stood up and gave me an ultimatum like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "Riley, apologize to your sister right now or leave this house." I looked around the table one last time. No one defended me. Not my father, not my brother-in-law, not even my mother. So I did the only thing that felt right. I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry in front of them. I simply left. The cold December wind hit my face as I stepped outside. My cheek was still burning from the slap. I got into my car, started the engine, and drove back to my apartment in complete silence. When I reached home, I sat on my couch in the dark for almost an hour. I kept replaying the moments in my head, the slap, my mother's cold voice, the way no one stood up for me. Something inside me finally broke that night, not in a loud, dramatic way. It broke quietly. I realized I was done. Done trying to be the good daughter. Done earning their approval. Done pretending that their love wasn't conditional. That night, I made a decision. 4 days later, on November 28th, at exactly 7:30 p.m., I drove back to my parents' house. I had a medium-sized brown package on the passenger seat. It was neatly wrapped with a simple red ribbon. I parked a little away from the house, walked up to their front porch, and placed the package right in front of the door. Then I rang the doorbell once and walked away without looking back. Inside that package was something that would change everything. I didn't know what at the time, but that single package would make my entire family scream in panic when they opened it. I drove back to my apartment in complete silence. The roads were mostly empty that night. It had started snowing lightly, and the city lights looked softer than usual. My hands were steady on the steering wheel, but my mind was racing. I kept seeing Madison's face when she slapped me, and my mother's cold expression when she told me to apologize or leave. I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt strangely calm. When I reached my apartment, I parked the car and sat inside for a few minutes with the engine off. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My cheek was still slightly red from the slap. I touched it gently and took a deep breath. I had done it. I had left the package. Now there was no going back. Welcome back to Polite Revenge Stories. Quiet stories about ordinary people who stop apologizing for taking up space. If you've ever been the one left off the guest list, this one is for you. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe so the next story finds you. I went upstairs, changed into comfortable clothes, and made myself a cup of tea. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't check my phone. I just sat on the couch in the dark, staring at the city lights through my window. I knew what was inside the package I had left on their doorstep. It wasn't anything illegal. I wasn't that reckless. But it was something that would hurt them more than any physical damage ever could. Inside the box was a USB drive. And on that USB drive were 4 years of carefully collected evidence. I had screenshots of messages where my parents badmouthed me to relatives. I had recordings of phone calls where my father complained about me to his business partners. I had bank statements I had quietly saved showing how they were moving money around in ways that didn't look clean. Most importantly, I had a video I had recorded last year during a family dinner when my father was drunk and openly said, "Riley thinks she's better than us because she's a teacher. Let her struggle. She'll come crawling back when she needs money." I had never planned to use any of this, but after what happened at Christmas dinner, something inside me snapped. At 9:47 p.m., my phone started ringing. It was my mother. I let it ring. She called again at 10:12 p.m., then at 10:35 p.m. I didn't answer. At 11:20 p.m., Madison called me. I rejected the call. At 11:47 p.m., my father sent me a text message. "Riley, what the hell is on this drive? Call me right now." I read the message, but didn't reply. I turned my phone on silent and went to bed. The next morning, my phone was filled with missed calls and messages. My mother had called me 17 times. Madison had sent me long, angry paragraphs. My father had left 3 voicemails, each one more desperate than the last. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, scrolling through the messages without replying to any of them. Then, at 8:15 a.m., my mother sent a voice note. I played it. Her voice was shaking. "Riley, please pick up the phone. We opened the package. We saw everything. Your father is losing his mind. Madison is crying. What do you want from us? Just tell us what you want and we'll talk. Please don't do anything with this information. We're still your family." I listened to it twice. Then I deleted it. I went to work like any other day. I taught my classes, graded papers during my free period, and ate lunch alone in my classroom. My colleagues had no idea what had happened. To them, I was just Riley, the quiet English teacher who kept to herself. During lunch, I received another message from Madison. This one was shorter. "Riley, Dad is talking about calling the police on you. He says you're blackmailing us. Please just talk to us before this gets worse." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed a reply. "I'm not blackmailing anyone. I left you the truth. What you do with it is up to you." I hit send and turned my phone off for the rest of the day. When I got home that evening, there were 3 cars parked outside my apartment building. My parents and Madison were waiting for me. My father was standing near the entrance with his arms crossed. My mother was sitting in the car looking out the window. Madison was pacing back and forth on the sidewalk. I parked my car and got out slowly. The moment my father saw me, he started walking toward me. "Riley, what the hell do you think you're doing?" he said angrily. "You think you can threaten your own family like this? That drive has personal information, private conversations. You have no right." I cut him off. "I have every right," I said calmly. "You slapped me in front of the entire family and called me a disappointment. Mom told me to apologize or leave. And now you're angry because I showed you the truth about yourselves?" My mother got out of the car. Her eyes were red. "Riley, please. We made mistakes. But this is too much. If any of this gets out, it will destroy the business. It will destroy everything we built." I looked at her. "You destroyed everything the day you chose Madison over me. You destroyed everything the day you decided my happiness didn't matter as much as your image." Madison stepped forward. She looked exhausted. "Riley, I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I shouldn't have slapped you. I was angry and scared. But please, don't destroy us. We're still your family." I looked at all 3 of them standing in front of me. For a moment, I felt the old guilt trying to come back, but it didn't last. "I'm not going to destroy you, but I'm also not going to protect you anymore. You have 48 hours to tell the truth to the rest of the family about what you've been doing with the business. If you don't, I will send copies of that drive to every person who needs to see it." My father's face turned red with anger. "You're blackmailing us." "No," I replied. "I'm finally standing up for myself." I walked past them and went inside my apartment building without looking back. That night, I didn't sleep well. I kept thinking about what I had done. Part of me felt powerful. Another part of me felt empty. At 3:17 a.m., I received one final message from my mother. It was short. "We're going to tell everyone the truth tomorrow. But Riley, after this, there's no going back. You understand that, right?" I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied with 4 words. "I know. I'm ready." I put my phone down and finally fell asleep. The next morning felt strangely normal. I woke up at my usual time, made coffee, and got ready for school like nothing had happened. But everything had changed. I kept checking my phone expecting angry messages or threats from my family. Instead, there was only silence. I went to work and taught my classes as usual, During lunch, I sat in my classroom alone, staring at my phone. Still nothing. No calls, no texts, no voicemails. At 2:47 p.m., while I was grading papers, my phone finally lit up. It was a message from Madison. Dad told the uncles everything last night. He showed them the USB. Uncle Robert is furious. He's threatening to pull all his investments from the business. Mom hasn't stopped crying since yesterday. Riley, what do we do now? I read the message twice, but didn't reply. I didn't know what they should do. That wasn't my problem anymore. When I reached home that evening, there were 2 missed calls from my mother and 1 from my father. I didn't call them back. Instead, I made dinner, ate quietly, and tried to focus on my normal life. But my mind kept drifting back to the package I had left on their doorstep. At 9:15 p.m., my mother sent me a voice note. I hesitated for a moment before playing it. Her voice sounded tired and broken. Riley, your father told the family everything. He showed them the recordings and the bank statements. Everyone is in shock. Uncle Robert and Aunt Susan are not speaking to us anymore. The business is in serious trouble. I know we hurt you, but please, can we talk? Just once. I need to hear your voice. I listened to the voice note 3 times. Then I deleted it. I wasn't ready to talk yet. The next 2 days were the quietest I had experienced in years. My family didn't call me again. Madison stopped texting. It felt like they were finally giving me space. Or maybe they were too busy dealing with the mess they had created. On the 3rd day, something changed. I was sitting in the staff room during my free period when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick it up. Hello? Miss Sutton? A calm male voice asked. Yes. This is Detective Ryan Keller with the Portland Police Department. We received a complaint from your father regarding a USB drive you allegedly left at their residence. He claims it contains private and possibly defamatory material. We'd like to speak with you. My stomach dropped. They had gone to the police. I took a deep breath and replied, I'll come in tomorrow morning. After I hung up, I sat there for a long time staring at the wall. I had expected anger. I had expected threats, but I didn't expect them to involve the police. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I went to the police station. Detective Keller was a middle-aged man of the calm face. He asked me to explain what was on the USB drive. I told him the truth, that it contained evidence of my family's financial misconduct and emotional manipulation toward me. He listened carefully and took notes. After I finished, he leaned back in his chair and said, Miss Sutton, from what you've told me, this seems more like a family dispute than a criminal matter. However, your father mentioned that some of the financial records on the drive might be relevant to an ongoing investigation. I can't share details, but I would advise you to be careful. I left the police station feeling uneasy. When I reached home, there was a message from Madison waiting for me. Riley, Dad went to the police. I tried to stop him, but he wouldn't listen. He's scared. Please don't do anything stupid. We're already falling apart. I didn't reply. Instead, I sat on my couch and thought about everything that had happened in the last few days. My family was breaking, and I was the one who had pushed the first domino. If you've ever been forced to choose between protecting yourself and protecting the people who hurt you, drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. I read every single one. The following evening, my mother showed up at my apartment. She looked exhausted. Her eyes were swollen and she wasn't wearing any makeup. She stood at my door for a few seconds before speaking. Can I come in? She asked softly. I stepped aside. She sat on the edge of my couch like she was afraid to get comfortable. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, she broke the silence. Your father is falling apart, she said. He's been drinking every night since he told the family the truth. Madison is barely speaking to us. The business is collapsing. And it's all because of that package you left. I looked at her. No, I said calmly. It's because of what was inside the package. The truth was always there. I just forced you to look at it. My mother's eyes filled with tears. I know we hurt you, she whispered. I know we treated you badly, but did you have to destroy everything? I felt a sharp pain in my chest. I didn't destroy anything, I said. You did that yourselves. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences. She started crying quietly. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry for everything. For the slap, for the way we treated you, for making you feel like you were never enough. I was wrong. We were all wrong. I looked at my mother, the same woman who had told me to apologize after being slapped. For the first time, her apology felt real, but I still wasn't ready to accept it. I need time, I said. I don't know if I can forgive you yet. Maybe I never will, but I'm not going to destroy you either. I already gave you a chance to tell the truth. What happens now is up to you. My mother nodded slowly. She wiped her tears and stood up. I understand. I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. She left after that. I sat alone in my apartment for a long time after she left. Part of me felt lighter. Another part of me felt heavy. I had finally made them face the truth, but now I had to face what came next, and I had a feeling that the worst was still ahead. The next morning, I received a call from Agent Ramirez. Miss Sutton, we'd like you to come in again today. There have been some new developments in the case. It's important. I agreed and went to the federal building after school. This time, the meeting felt heavier. Agent Ramirez showed me several documents and asked if I recognized any of the names or transactions. Some of them were from years ago, old business deals my father had made when I was still in college. One name stood out. It was a company I had never heard of, but the transactions showed large amounts of money moving between my father's business and this unknown company over several years. When I told her I didn't recognize it, she nodded and closed the file. Your father has started cooperating, she said. He's giving us information about some of his old partners. But your mother and sister are still hesitant. We believe there's more they're not telling us. I left the building feeling uneasy. When I reached home, there was a message from Madison waiting for me. Dad is talking to the FBI every day now. He's giving them names. Mom is scared. She thinks he's going to drag all of us down with him. Riley, can you please talk to him? He might listen to you. I didn't reply. That evening, I sat on my couch for a long time, thinking about everything. My father was cooperating with the authorities. My mother was scared. Madison was stuck in the middle. And I was the one who'd started it all by leaving that package. I felt a strange mix of emotions. Satisfaction, guilt, and exhaustion all at once. 2 days later, my father called me directly. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Riley, he said. His voice sounded older than I remembered. I need to talk to you. Can you come to the house tomorrow? I stayed quiet for seconds. Why? I asked. Because I want to tell you everything myself, before the FBI does. I owe you that much. I agreed to meet him. The next afternoon, I drove to their new apartment. It was much smaller than the house we grew up in. My father opened the door. He looked tired and thinner than before. We sat in the small living room. My mother was in the kitchen, but she didn't come out. Madison wasn't there. My father looked at me for a long time before speaking. I made a lot of mistakes, not just with the business, with you too. I always thought that if I built something big enough, it would make up for everything else. I thought money and success were the most important things. I was wrong. I didn't say anything. I just listened. He continued, "When you chose to become a teacher, I felt like you were rejecting everything I had worked for. I took it personally. I thought you were trying to embarrass me, so I punished you for it. Your mother and I both did." He looked down at his hands. "I'm not asking you to forgive me right now. I know I don't deserve it, but I wanted to hear it from me. I'm sorry, Riley, for all of it." I felt tears stinging my eyes, but I held them back. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet," I said honestly, "but I'm glad you're finally telling the truth." He nodded slowly. We sat in silence for a while. Before he left, he said one more thing. "The FBI offered me a deal. If I testify against some of my old partners, they'll reduce the charges against me. I'm going to take it. I'm done lying. I just hope it's not too late to fix at least some of the damage I caused." I left his apartment feeling heavier than when I arrived. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my father's apology. It felt real, but I still wasn't sure if it was enough. Too many years of hurt had built up between us. The next morning, I received another message from Madison. "Dad told us he's testifying. Mom is freaking out. She thinks he's going to destroy what's left of the family. Riley, please, can you talk to her? She's not listening to anyone." I stared at the message. For the first time, I felt torn. Part of me wanted to stay out of it completely. Another part of me still cared, even after everything. I didn't know what to do. If you've ever been caught between protecting yourself and watching your family fall apart, drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. I read every single one. That evening, I made a decision. I called my mother. She picked up on the second ring. "Riley?" she said, surprised. "I'm coming over tomorrow," I told her. "We need to talk. All of us." She was quiet for a moment. "Okay," she whispered. "We'll be here." I hung up and sat in the dark for a long time. I didn't know what would happen when I went there. I didn't know if anything could be fixed. But I knew I couldn't keep running from it forever. The next day would change everything. Again. The next morning, I woke up with a heavy feeling in my chest. I had told my mother I would come over, but now that the day had actually arrived, I wasn't sure if I was ready. I stood in front of my mirror for a long time, just staring at my own reflection. My eyes looked tired. I hadn't been sleeping well since I left that package on their doorstep. Part of me wanted to cancel. Another part of me knew that if I didn't go now, I might never get the answers I needed. I got ready slowly, wore a simple sweater and jeans, and drove to their apartment. My hands were slightly shaking on the steering wheel the entire way. When I reached their building, I sat in the car for almost 10 minutes before I could make myself go inside. My mother opened the door. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her face was pale, and she had dark circles under her eyes. She didn't try to hug me. She just stepped aside and said softly, "Come in." My father was sitting on the couch. He stood up when he saw me. Madison was also there, sitting in the corner chair, looking nervous. The atmosphere in the room was heavy. I sat down on the single-seater sofa, keeping some distance between us. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Finally, my father broke the silence. "Thank you for coming," he said. His voice was low and tired. "I know you didn't have to." I didn't reply. I just waited. My mother sat down beside him and looked at me with red eyes. "Riley, we've been talking a lot these past few days," she said. "Your father has decided to fully cooperate with the FBI. He's going to tell them everything he knows, even if it means he has to face serious consequences." I looked at my father. He nodded slowly. "I've already started," he said.
I gave them names yesterday. Some of the people I worked with, they were involved in much bigger things than I realized. I was stupid. I got greedy, and now I have to pay for it. Madison spoke next, her voice quiet. Mom and I are also going to cooperate. We're going to tell them whatever we know. We're done hiding. I stayed silent for a few seconds, trying to process everything. Then I asked the question that had been on my mind since I walked in. Why now? I asked, looking at all three of them. Why are you suddenly willing to destroy everything you built? My father looked down at his hands. Because we finally understand what we did to you. When you left that package, it forced us to see ourselves clearly for the first time. We spent years controlling you, judging you, and making you feel small. And when you finally stood up for yourself, we realized we had lost you. That hurt more than losing the business. My mother wiped her eyes. I keep thinking about that moment at Christmas dinner. The way I told you to apologize after Madison slapped you. I can't stop hearing my own voice. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Madison looked at me, her eyes glassy. She said, I'm sorry I slapped you. I was angry and scared, but that's not an excuse. You didn't deserve it. You never deserved any of this.
The room fell silent again. I felt a lump forming in my throat. I had waited years to hear these words, but now that they were actually saying them, it didn't feel as satisfying as I thought it would. It just felt sad. I don't know what you want from me, I said honestly. If you're asking me to forgive you right now, I can't, not yet. Maybe not for a long time. My father nodded. We're not asking for forgiveness, he said. We're just asking you to know that we're finally taking responsibility for the business, for how we treated you, for everything. My mother looked at me with a tired but sincere expression. Whatever happens with the FBI, we'll accept it. We just hope that one day you'll be able to look at us without hating us. I didn't know what to say to that. I stood up after some time. I need to go, I said. I need time to think. My mother walked me to the door. Before I left, she said one last thing. Riley, even if you never forgive us, I want you to know that I'm proud of the person you became. You're stronger than all of us. I didn't reply. I just nodded and walked out. As I drove back home, my mind was racing. Part of me felt relieved that they were finally taking accountability. But another part of me still felt angry and hurt. Years of pain don't disappear just because someone says sorry. That night, I sat on my balcony for a long time, thinking about everything. I had spent so many years trying to prove myself to them, trying to be enough. And now, when they were finally broken and admitting their mistakes, I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired. If you've ever waited years for an apology that came too late, drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. I read every single one. The next morning, I received a message from Agent Ramirez. She wanted to meet me again. This time, she had news. When I reached her office, she didn't waste time. Miss Sutton, she said, your father has been very cooperative. Because of the information he provided, we've been able to connect your family's case to a much larger investigation. However, there's something you should know. She paused for a second. Your mother and sister have also started cooperating fully, but your father, he's in a difficult position. The charges against him are serious. He might have to serve some time, depending on how much he can help us. I felt my stomach drop.
even though I was angry at him, the thought of my father going to prison still affected me. Agent Ramirez continued, "We believe your family was used by bigger players. Your father is helping us go after them. But this also means your family's reputation is going to be completely destroyed in the process." I left her office feeling confused and heavy. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment thinking about everything that had happened in the last few weeks. I had left one package on their doorstep, and now their entire world was falling apart. And even though they deserved it, I couldn't ignore the strange feeling in my chest. The revenge I thought would make me feel better was now starting to feel like something else, something much more complicated. The FBI investigation lasted for almost 5 months. During those months, my life felt like it was on pause. I went to work.
My mother stopped calling me every day. Instead, she would send short messages, sometimes just asking how I was, other times telling me that my father was struggling with the stress. Madison would occasionally text me updates, but our conversations remained short and careful. I kept my distance. On a rainy afternoon in late April, Agent Ramirez called me with the news I had been waiting for. "Miss Sutton, the investigation is coming to a close," she said. "Your father has provided substantial evidence against several individuals. Because of his cooperation, the charges against your mother and sister have been significantly reduced. However, your father will still have to face some consequences." I stayed quiet, waiting for her to continue. "He's likely looking at 18 to 24 months in prison," she said. "It could have been much worse. Your cooperation also helped us understand the full picture. Thank you for that." After the call ended, I sat on my couch for a long time, staring at the wall. My father was going to prison. Even after everything he had done to me, the news still hit harder than I expected. That evening, I drove to my parents' apartment. My mother opened the door. She looked exhausted, but calmer than before. My father was sitting on the couch, looking older than his age. I sat down across from them. "Agent Ramirez called me today. She told me about Dad's sentence." My father nodded slowly. "I know," he said. "I've already accepted it. I deserve it." My mother looked at me with tired eyes. "Riley, we're not going to ask you to visit him or anything like that. We just wanted you to know that we're not fighting anymore. We're done lying. We're done pretending." I looked at both of them. For the first time in years, they actually looked like real people instead of the powerful, controlling figures I had grown up fearing. "I'm not going to visit you in prison," I said honestly. "But I also won't disappear completely. I just need time. A lot of time." My father nodded. "That's more than I deserve," he said quietly. My mother wiped her eyes, but didn't cry this time. "Whatever happens, I want you to know that I'm truly sorry for the slap, for the way we treated you, for everything." I didn't say, "It's okay," because it wasn't. Not yet. But I also didn't walk out. I stayed for almost an hour. We didn't talk about the business or the FBI. We talked about small things, my students, the weather, and an old movie we all used to like. It felt strange, but not completely wrong. When I was leaving, my father stopped me at the door. "Riley," he said, "I know I can't fix what I broke, but I hope that one day you'll be able to remember the good parts too, not just the bad." I looked at him for a long moment. "I hope so too," I said. After that day, things moved slowly. My father surrendered himself 2 months later. My mother moved into a small one-bedroom apartment. Madison got a job at a local bookstore and started therapy. The family name that once carried weight in Portland now carried shame.
I kept living my life.
I continued teaching. I continued going to the library on Saturdays. I continued building the quiet, independent life I had always wanted. Sometimes my mother would text me. Sometimes I would reply. Sometimes I wouldn't. She never pushed. One evening in early June, I received a letter from my father. It was sent from prison. It was short. Riley, I have a lot of time to think here. I think about you the most. I was a terrible father to you. I know that now. I don't expect you to write back. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry and that I'm trying to become someone better, even if it's too late. Dad. I read the letters several times before folding it and putting it in my drawer. I didn't write back, but I also didn't throw it away. If you've ever been hurt so deeply by your own family that forgiveness feels impossible, drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. I read every single one. Looking back at everything that happened, from the slap at Christmas dinner to the package I left on their doorstep, I realized something important. Revenge didn't give me the peace I thought it would. What gave me peace was finally choosing myself. I stopped waiting for them to love me the way I needed. I stopped trying to earn their approval. I stopped shrinking myself to fit into their idea of who I should be. And in doing that, I became free. My family broke me in many ways, but they also forced me to become someone stronger than I ever thought I could be. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive them. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. But I do know this. I'm no longer living my life for their approval. I'm living it for me. And that, more than anything else, feels like winning.